Being a gay teenager in the 90s is really tough. There were no support structures.
How did your parents react when you came out?
When I came out to her, she asked me, have you got someone pregnant? Is it drugs? I was like, no, Mum, I'm gay. She burst into tears because she realized, oh, David's going to have to go through all that suffering. For any parent, there is this attachment to the idea that your child is going to flourish in this way. They're going to marry, they're going to have kids, they're going to get their education. And that had to be broken.
Hello and welcome to The Sacred. My name is Elizabeth Oldfield, and this is a podcast about the deep values of a wide range of people who are shaping our common life. And today I am delighted to be with David Bennett, who is an ethicist, an Oxford theologian, and a gay celibate Christian. David, thanks so much for coming to be with me.
Thanks for having me. It's so wonderful to be here in London.
Tell me, having had some time to think about your deep values and principles, what is sacred to you?
So I think for me, the places I experience what I would call sacred are those in-between spaces. Like liminal is the fancy word, but I have really experienced, for instance, in terms of God, it's the person of Jesus being both human and divine. Like that is a pretty big one. Bridging earth and heaven, so that kind of frames how I see the sacred. But it's also in those places that you would think are just really secular, like the pub or the gay dance place, where you think, there wouldn't be any liminality there. It's defined. No, absolutely, that like God is involved in those places and those spaces. And so I find the sacredness there when you're almost in an in-between space. And I've tried to think about, what is it that is sacred to me? And I think it's this combination of what is transcendent and what is immanent as well.
You're going to have to define for me.
So that there's something beyond just this moment. That is what, and yet it is very much within this moment. So there's something to do with time as well. But just to say maybe something really prosaic and every day, I think I really love food. I just think it's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a universal language. Every human being needs to eat.
Yeah.
You can serve someone, you can love someone just so in a tacit, direct way if you serve them a meal.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that has been probably the place I find most intensely sacred conversations happen is through food, through that form of hospitality. Yeah. So that's what the sacred is to me.
I love that. Yeah, the table as a sacred place.
Table, yeah. Have you had that a lot as an answer?
No.
No?
And I think it's very true.
Yeah.
The breaking bread with each other, right? It's hard to be enemies. It's hard to be completely guarded with other people when we are feeding, our fleshliness is so involved. Like we might burp, we might fart, might dribble. Maybe this is all just me. It's, I don't know, it's leveling.
It's leveling, and I think it breaks down that sense of I'm right, they're wrong,
Yeah,
those
let me put some food on your plate is a very... Restaurants don't quite do it, I think. It has to be, we are in some way sharing a meal.
And when I was, just someone who's very passionate about my faith in Oxford, trying to reach people, what I found was so potent was just getting people to actually, rather than have all these church activities or these theological conferences, it was just actually what was revolutionary was getting around a table.
Yeah.
And also inviting people that weren't necessarily wanting to follow faith either and have conversations.
Yeah.
So that was all happening, and that was really, for me, very fulfilling.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks. I'd love to get a sense of what are your guiding values? And one of the, it's actually hard to know, I think, but one of the possible ways into this is times in your life where you felt really the temptation to compromise, or you felt really agonized about a decision. There's pressure to go one way, but something within you is going, no. What is your sense of your guiding values and principles?
I think for me, it's a combination of things, but the love of God is a value for me. Everything has to emerge from that. Everything comes back to that. That's baseline. I think the other thing for me, I love honesty. I just, if someone is really evil and has done something really terrible, but they're honest about it, I can handle it. It's when they lie about it that it's just like, oh, I can't, that's really hard for me. So honesty and the transparency and the safety that honesty creates, I think is beautiful. And I've seen that happen a lot. I think the other thing for me is constantly trying to look at life through the angle of what I'm not. So something about like otherness is big for me.
Yeah.
Because there have been times where I thought I got it and I'd resolved everything. And then I was like, wait, no, I'm missing something. I'm blind here. And that's really important. Alongside a really deep desire for conviction and truth.
Yeah.
And what is the best possible thing for humans.
Yeah.
And that, like, both of them kind of, I think they're two big guiding values. So like otherness and conviction and truth.
Yeah.
And within that, a strand of like, I think solidarity is a big one for me as a value. So learning how to have solidarity with people I don't agree with has been huge. I'm not necessarily always good at it because it's tiring.
It's hard.
And sometimes the person you're trying to have solidarity with
doesn't want solidarity with you.
You're different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they're all some of the values that shape me. And then I think finally, I just want to park on humility for a moment. When I was thinking about the question, I've been really captured by the idea that before Christianity came on the scene, humility wasn't really a big virtue in any society. I think maybe there were bits and pieces of it in Judaism and Buddhism, but it became kind of a supreme virtue after Jesus dies and rises again. Something about that paradox of like how God communicates himself through humility is a big value for me. So I'm always looking for like, where's the weakness? Where's the person who hasn't been included? Where's the downward way that doesn't look obvious right now? Yeah. But actually is where you can find truth and find grace and find that honesty and that humanity. So there's some of my values.
Beautiful. Thanks. You. I'd love to get a sense of kind of how you've become the man that holds those values. Tell me a bit about your childhood, maybe kind of primary school age or the Australian equivalent. What were the like political, philosophical, religious, other ideas in the air as you were growing up?
Yeah, so I was raised in an agnostic atheist home with Christian relatives, but then my dad was very influenced by neoliberalism and neoconservatism. So the idea, just invest your money, get a mortgage, get your slice of the jungle, and you'll be fine. Right. It's very aspirational. Yeah, very aspirational success. Yeah. We're going upward in the economy. Here we go. Meanwhile,
just the 80s, right?
80s. Yeah. Exactly. Full throttle. Yeah. And then there was this kind of, at school, studying Shakespeare a lot and postmodern theory. I actually had classes with a teacher after school for that because we were such nerds. And I just wanted to be at university and study that. And like almost like the deconstruction of what I was raised with. There was a lot of like Roman Catholicism was big in my very early years. Right. And I remember like escaping bullies at school to pray to Mary and to God more generally.
Where did that come from?
So my mum put me in a Catholic school. My grandmother was a kind of deeply Catholic person and had wrestled with her own identity and everything, complex things. And then I think the other ideas that were big for me were kind of constructionist religions like Wicca.
Wait, you're going to have to define the term constructionist religion. This is why whenever I'm talking to academics, I'm like, whoa, slow down. Yeah.
So basically you make up your own thing that works for you. Okay. But it's authentic to yourself. It's not, and it's not necessarily lazy. Yeah. It's more just like, you are constructing. I thought, I came out as gay when I was 14 and I was like, I don't want anything to do with these Abrahamic faiths. They are just like negative and I want something that makes me flourish. So I'm going to construct my own religion. And then I found Wicca. And then that kind of didn't quite keep me intellectually. It started to kind of fall from my grasp. So then I tried Buddhism, but then I became kind of convinced that, well, I have these desires for a reason. I'm actually getting rid of them isn't the way to flourishing either.
What do you mean by these desires?
Human desires for, the goodness of life, the world, romance, all these things that Buddhism was saying to me, ignore those. They're getting in the way of your eventual enlightenment.
So that, let me just double click on that for a second because my understanding of Buddhism is very patchy, but what I think I'm hearing is this kind of like this, and it's not all bits of Buddhism obviously, but the sort of one of the forms of teaching is basically that desire is the root of suffering. And if we can just let go of desires, then we will not be suffering
anymore. Then we won't be suffering anymore. Exactly. And actually holding on to them is stopping us from being enlightened, finding nirvana, this state that we're all on our way towards. And then that led me to French existentialism, which was...
You really went on a whistle-stop tour. As a teenager. I was watching Neighbours.
I was watching Queer as Folk at 11 a.m. at night. I was 15. Trying to kind of, that was an important side of the world for me, was like secular media, LGBTQI plus. I definitely saw that as like freedom. And I was trying to find a worldview that let me inhabit that in a way that felt right, safe, humanistic, good.
Can you just say a bit more about what it was like to be a gay teenager in Sydney in the 90s?
Yeah. Being a gay teenager in the 90s is really tough. There were no support structures. There was still the idea that this was like an illegal, horrific...
Because you were on an all-boys school, right?
It was an all-boys school. It was a Calvinist Anglican school that was very on the Bible-thumpy side of Christianity. There was no Holy Spirit, no sense of like compassion or, understanding. It was just very like, this is the Bible, believe it, and then you'll be a good Christian. So I really reacted against that. And for me, I really focused my life on having boyfriends because that was the great escape. And so I just had like a string of boyfriends, and I even skipped a class to kiss one of them quite a lot of the time. So my academic results slightly suffered because I was,
romantically active.
Yeah. And I really took on that idea that my romantic life would be what would save me because of the pressure of suffering and feeling really different at school and kind of being cajoled by all the, male students but I was part of this group that was really Christian and was also kind of proto-gay, like pre-gay. Hadn't come out yet.
We come over.
Come over. But I was this kind of annoying guy that was like, I'm coming out, and they're like, oh, and, quite dramatic.
Oh,
but so, that personality had hit at that point. But yeah, it was tough. And I just used to have dreams of being able to escape school and get to university. And I think to me, university was the place of respite and joy and all things good. And I just couldn't wait to get out of my Christian school.
How did your parents react when you came out? Because they weren't Christians themselves. They just sent you to the school.
Yeah. So my parents were very like IBM.
What does that mean?
Which was this software company that was like very ahead of the game on like human rights. I have
no reference points for this whole... I'm just going to keep listening and hope for I'll come to understand it.
It's like one of the big software companies at the time that was very ahead on like human rights and LGBTQ rights. And so they had that kind of element in their thinking.
Right.
And they were like, very accepting. But I think for my mum, who's very much more on the kind of emotional, empathic side, she's an opera singer. When I came out to her in this like blue Volvo going into my friend's house, she asked me, have you got someone pregnant? Is it drugs? I was like, no, Mum, I'm gay.
Do you know me at all?
Yeah. Like, hello, you're an opera singer. And we had poodles as a child. Like, I had no choice. And anyway, but I think she burst into tears because she realized, David's going to have to go through all that suffering to get to a place of integration for himself. And I'm only going to be able to, as a straight mom, get him so far. But I also think in that, for any parent, there is this attachment to the idea that your child is going to flourish in this way. They're going to marry, they're going to have kids, they're going to get their education. And that had to be broken.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy thing, actually, but it's a hard thing to happen so early. But I think my parents in the end were just loving and very affirming of everything and really just wanted the best for me. So I had a wonderful upbringing, from them. But there was still this sense in me as that teenager that there's something innately different about you. That because your desire for one of the greatest things in life is somehow different or misaligned with an idea of moral normalcy, that like you are going to have to suffer a lot. And that was a really tough thing to face as a 14-year-old. And I think it exhausted me in ways that my peers were able to just excel and flourish and live their life. There was something almost echoing back to me of Jesus, who in his own life had something that crushed him that he had to do to like become who he was. So there was something still in me, and I had this boyfriend when I was 14, and I had a very strong desires, and we had a very passionate relationship very early on. And he handed me this cross and he said to me, David, you need this. And he wasn't a Christian. He didn't like believe in Jesus or anything, but he was from a Russian Orthodox background. And he was just trying to give me something sacred. And he said, David, there's a desire in you that I can't satisfy, that no partner or kind of husband or will ever be able to satisfy for you. And you need to find out what that is, because I can't fulfill it.
Wow.
And I think that sense of self-rejection, what you opt for with self-rejection is like extreme romantic ideas, because it helps you cope. And I think I had this kind of exuberance to me that came from a kind of desire to escape that sense of, I don't want to agree with self-rejection.
Right.
I want to be free.
Yeah.
And I want to fight for the rights of people like myself to have that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what it was like in Sydney, conservative Christian boys' school with a postmodern university in my future as a liminal space.
Yeah.
In-between space. It was, hard in that way, but beautiful as well.
Could you describe who you were when you started university? What were you exercised by? What kind of things were you spending time on?
I think I was always a person that is buzzing with something. There's always some kind of background obsession. And I mean, my friends would all be like, oh, it's obsession, 13, 14, 15. There would be some kind of intense focus. And at that time, it was really all about the compost of my school years, trying to sort through who am I, how am I going to live, what's the best kind of political way of doing that, what's the best social way of doing that. I think I want to be a writer, I think I want to be a commentator, do I want to be a journalist, am I going to be a creative writer, how does this work, who am I, who will my partner be, all of those kinds of questions. And ended up in the kind of Labour left party faction of student politics, became very vocal in that, served the queer collective at uni, was an editor of the university magazine, was critical of the Sandstone Conservative or whatever, Sydney University. That kind of life is what I was living. But underneath that was this toe and this kick of like, there is something more than this.
Because a lot of people who get involved in activism, it does fulfill a kind of a sense of meaning and purpose and belonging for them. But it sounds like you were looking for that, didn't quite find it.
Yeah, I just kept having this nagging sense that these things aren't going to ultimately fulfill you. And I just didn't know how to. So obviously, again, I kept trying to find that in romantic relationships. And could not find a partner that clicked, who was asking those kinds of... I remember once going to a Sufjan Stevens concert.
Amazing.
Showing my age. And...
Don't diss him.
And I had a boyfriend at the time, and after the concert, he's like, David, that was really beautiful. I don't think I understood any of it, and you're too deep for me. And broke up with me.
Wow.
I just thought...
That's an original breakup reason.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, thanks. Bye. And that was like more tragic than just being broken up with, actually, in a sense.
Yeah.
It just made me feel like I'm never going to meet someone that will feel where there'll be that mutuality. Exactly. So yeah, I think there was this like inner theologian in me that hadn't yet arisen from the ashes that wanted to ask those deeper questions. Yeah. But I was suppressing it because I was so afraid of being crushed by it.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about queer? Because in your book, you write about studying queer theory and beginning to call yourself queer. And I think it's a word that's used a lot that has a like hinterland of meaning that a lot of people wouldn't know about. What's your interpretation of what kind of queer theory and the rise of that means?
I think there are 3 layers or 4 layers to 3 or 4. They kind of intersect a lot, so they kind of smush into 3. But you kind of have the everyday kind of identity politics layer, which is like, I'm queer, and it refers to something gay, lesbian, maybe something broader than that, like trans or intersex, but is generally concentrated there and expands more broadly. Then you go underneath that to actually, I disagree with a certain kind of commodified view of what it means to be gay or lesbian or trans or intersex. And I reject that, and I don't want to be pigeonholed, and I'm going to be what I am. And I reject kind of having a label stuck on me.
It's so like a broader label than any of those specific letters?
Yeah.
Right.
And it could involve all sorts of intersections of those letters that aren't understood in each one.
Okay.
Complicated. Then all the way down to academic queerness, which is very much a posture that has to do with like complex philosophy, post-structuralism, postmodernism.
It's about kind of disrupting
normative structures of power with a form of subjectivity that's been covered over by them.
Okay. That's probably enough for now. I feel like I've got a way to go before I understand it.
I did pretty well. Do you think I did okay?
From my base level knowledge, I feel like I know more than I did. Let's come back to the labels you choose for yourself, though. But first, I want to hear, like, you would not have called yourself a Christian. You were fairly anti-Christian during this time. You saw it as oppressive. It's hard. These moments of transformation in our lives, and I know from mine, you've written about it. These stories are hard to tell. Sometimes it can feel like the power gets sucked out of them, right? So, insofar as it feels appropriate for you today, tell us how you went from anti-Christian to someone who'd happily call themselves a Christian.
Yeah. I think coming back to that itching sense that there's something more. I was coming back from some political activism that I felt very disenchanted by. Felt very much like that was not a sacred experience. I'm not sure I want to keep doing this, but I don't really know what else there is.
Yeah.
And ending up at the Christmas lunch table with my uncle, who was everything that I despised, connected together, including a Christian of a certain kind. And we had this debate about the existence of God. And I said to him, there's no absolute truth. You can't communicate truth with language, let alone talk about God. And see Christian history, it's terrible. The end.
Yeah.
And stop brainwashing us with the deluded notion of living forever in the sky with the first century Jewish Palestinian carpenter. It's not helping anyone. And he said to me, well, you just said there's no absolute truth. That's an absolute truth. And you just used language to communicate that. So you doubly contradicted yourself. And then turned to me and said, the problem is you think truth is a concept in your head, but truth is a person, and his name is Jesus Christ. And I stood up and said, well, that's fine for you, heterosexual, cisgender, privileged man. But I'm queer, I'm here, and I win. I stormed out of the room. And as that happened, he had a prophetic vision. So this happens in Christian scriptures where someone will see something in time that God will do to redeem something. And he sees me being baptized with the Holy Spirit and becoming a Christian in 3 months' time.
Double click, baptized with the Holy Spirit.
John the Baptist says, that's the Lamb of God, Jesus. He's going to baptize you with fire and the Spirit. It's basically like the whole new creation of the world that's coming, starting in you.
We'll come back to what it felt like, because that might help people who, for this whole concept is...
It's like the Spirit of God coming to dwell in you fully. It's difficult.
Like a physical experience?
It can be a physical experience. Yeah. It's usually quite subjective, because God loves everyone in their unique subjectivity. We'll come back to what that. And then
he saw that happening to you in 3 months' time.
3 months later, was in a pub in the gay quarter of Sydney, met this filmmaker who I know got her film into the largest short film competition in the world. I was very impressed. I asked her, how did you do this? And she said, do you want the real answer? I said, of course. She said, well, it was God, to my own chagrin and disappointment. Ew. And the same reaction with my uncle, only this time she was someone I could listen to, because her film was about disabled people and then being misunderstood in society. And I was like, I like that. That feels more natively Christian to me than just apologetics or just some answers. Like, there's something about you that your body understands me, which was a funny. So she said, well, what do you think about God and Jesus? And when I found out it was Jesus, I was even more disappointed. And then...
Oh, that one.
I grew up with that one, you know? Yeah. And then she could just see that I was actually hungry. And I said, well, look, I'm gay and I've read the Bible and I know all these verses. And look, let's just move on. I'm really glad you have your truth. And she said, yeah. And then in this moment, she just was touched by God, visibly in front of me, which usually would completely repel me. But there was something so authentic about it. I couldn't, because I had such a truth in me. It's like, this is real. Like, I can't fault this.
Yeah.
And then she looks at me and says, have you experienced the love of God? Because you can't understand any of that unless you have this. And there's a concept in my whole way of understanding things. I very much think these questions of morality, they're not really questions of morality centrally. They're questions of suffering and difference first. And she understood that. And that unlocked something in me that was really beautiful, and an openness to God that I just wasn't able to have before.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Jesus is really like, you know, and I think that's what he would have been like on the earth when people encountered him. Anyway, so I say, look, you can pray for me, but I don't think anything's going to happen, with a little extra sass added. And she prayed for me, and I went into this like time loop where everything went slow. And I started to feel this tingling sensation on the top of my head, like a wind above my head or a hand held above it, even though I couldn't see it. It was bizarre. And then I felt this almost like oil being poured on my head, and like just all over my body, this like goosebumpy electricity, just like going through everything in me, this love that was electric, this fire. You know, you can't really describe it, but we use the elements to try to, but it's like way beyond. And then there's baptism with the Holy Spirit, you know, but it's the presence of God. And I knew in that moment that was the love I was created for. It was like something clicked, something filled a void that nothing else could before. And I finally found the true obsession of my heart, like the thing I could lean everything into. So I heard this voice as she was praying say, do you want me? And then like second and third time, very directly. And it was a bizarre moment because like, well, I don't know you. How do I know if I want you? Yeah. So it was but it was really beautiful because it was almost like going right into the deepest desire I had, which was that mutuality, like a partner or a romantic relationship. And it spoke to that. And it was something like a kind of servant washing your feet, but like, you know, as a spouse offering you marriage. It was that kind of both of those loves together completely. And I just couldn't resist it. So I said yes. And then this veil, suddenly I saw in my mind's eye, and this pinprick of light go through this dark veil, and this breath fill me. And I said to her, I'm breathing without breathing. What's happening to me? She's like, oh, it's the Holy Spirit. He loves you. You've been born again. And that was a really complex phrase for me.
Yeah.
Like American right-wing Republican, get away from me.
Yeah.
She said, that's not what it means. It means you are reconnected with God in your inner person. And I was like, yeah, it's amazing. She's like, let me keep praying. So then I heard this voice say, will you accept my son Jesus as your Lord and Savior? Ooh, that was so hard. I was like, I don't want to say yes to that.
Can I just pause you, because you said you love honesty.
Yeah.
At that point in your book, I totally rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on. God doesn't speak like that. Like, that's the kind of thing. That's like people, Christians trying to make a formulaic phrase for something unformulizable. And then the next line in the book was, and then I was really annoyed at that phrase. And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
So you are I was like, no.
I don't. What does that even mean?
Everything is wrong. I'm going to betray my people. And it did feel like if I was to say yes to that, I was betraying the LGBTQI plus world. That's how it felt, even though that isn't really true, because of the culture war, because of what I grew up in. That it was so layered, impossibly layered. And yet this faith rose up in me and said, yes, say yes. Because the voice that's wanting you to say no is ugly and gross, and we're sick of that voice. And the other voice was, I'm here when you're ready. I'll always be here and I love you. And nothing will ever change that. That was the sense. It's like, I like that voice. That's light.
Yeah.
That stuff's darkness. I'm done with that. So I said yes. To my own kind of rational amazement. And then the love of God was poured out on me. I went home that night. My mum was waiting up. And she'd become a Christian, not just like a nominal Catholic or a nice Anglican, but like a full-on Pentecostal, evangelical, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I told her, like, you need to choose between a delusion in your head and your real son. Like, make your choice, because there will be repercussions. You know, if you keep going this way in our relationship. And so to go home exactly 3 months, and she's waiting for this word from my uncle to happen. And I'm walking in a bit like a Schitt's Creek episode, if you've ever watched that. And I'm getting to the front of the room because she calls me in, although I really wanted to escape. And she asked me, like, what happened? And it was just such a beautiful and difficult and impossible moment. I just couldn't. It wouldn't come out my mouth. And it was a lot like what it was like to come out to her. So there was this uncanny connection between coming out as gay when I was 14 and coming out as a Christian to my mom. And having to eat my words. This like liminal, these moments where you pass through what was supposedly the opposite of the thing you are. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
And then she, once I told her, just was like, this is incredible. The prophetic vision of your uncle has been fulfilled. And I felt like I'd walked into a Harry Potter novel, and it was just mind-boggling. Found out that my uncle had seen this presciently before.
Yeah.
And then questioned it all the way to the film competition, looked at a star in the sky, said, I'm a gay atheist activist god, so I need you to show up with some kind of rational sign because this is too much and I'm out unless you show up because I just can't handle this. And she wins the film competition. I run down to her with she has the trophy in her hand, and she says to me, David, all night God's been bugging me to tell you he exists, and you just need to know that. And there with 20,000 people in the domain of Sydney, Australia, I floated home a Christian. Like, I could not deny the existence of God.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. It's always a very tender story to tell, I think, those moments. There's so much we could dig into in your story, but I'm going to just slightly zoom ahead because you had several years of being a very committed Christian and having a boyfriend and feeling like those two things were very compatible. Mm-hmm. But that's not where you are now.
Yeah.
How, in your book, you often use the phrase, you often describe yourself as gay / same-sex attracted, and you put them together like, it's like a bit like Derry, Londonderry. But you don't use the word queer.
Yeah.
And you also use this phrase side B.
Yeah.
Could you tell me what side B is and where you've landed in terms of that question?
So I think what was really tough when I came into the landscape as an author at the age that I wrote A War of Loves is I don't think it was very safe in Christian, particularly more evangelical spaces, to even use the word gay or queer. It would shut down the readership. They wouldn't even pick up the book.
And you were trying to write for a Christian audience about your experience.
The whole goal of the book was for a really intense kind of evangelical, whatever type of Christian to understand a gay person that wasn't a Christian and what they go through. Mm-hmm. And for the gay atheist person to understand that kind of Christian or just Christians generally. Yeah. And to bridge that. So I knew I had to bring down the language, even if I was more comfortable. And there were two kinds of definitions going on around the word gay that were really complex in the online space, particularly Twitter, hello. And it was this kind of maximalist and minimalist definitions of the word gay or queer or same-sex attracted. And so I just knew a minimalist view. It simply referred to your orientation, not what you decide to do with that ethically, how you wanted to live that out. That was a separate question, but it simply referred to this is
who I'm attracted to.
And this hasn't changed. And then the maximalist view that was very politically co-opted by the extreme left and the extreme right, that they used to pick up their power, that I hated, because I saw it damaging the rights of gay people to choose how they wanted to live. And so I had this I suppose a classically liberal little bit in me that was like, no, I refuse. I'm going to complicate this. I don't believe in the maximalist picture that it means you're going to have exactly these political views, make these choices with your body, have this kind of way of living. But there's a multitude of ways to be gay. And neither one is less or more gay. Yeah. But people on Twitter would say to me, you're not gay, you're not you're not with a partner and you're not sexually active, so you're not really gay. And I'd be like, that's ridiculous. Yes, I am. So there was a real fight at that time. Then there was something else going on of a whole array of Christian people who had experiences of, same-sex desire, but didn't want to be put in a box. And so they would call themselves kind of same-sex attracted or didn't want that to be too much of a central or a particular feature of their identities that was obsessed about. So they would use same-sex attracted as a kind of a bit of a resistance.
Sort of like minimizing
I wanted to kind of be inclusive of everyone.
Right.
And then the queer world, I don't think I'd done my thinking around what I thought about queer.
Yeah.
I probably was happy to use that.
Yeah.
But it was just a more complex word that I felt like I probably need to do an Oxford doctorate before I start using that word. Because I hadn't done all the, I had my undergrad, but I didn't have my master's or anything else to really dig in.
Yeah.
So now the word queer is something very fluid for me. But I've redefined it in my own way, which is what you're supposed to do with the word queer. And queerness for me is the strangeness of a person that has been touched by the love of God and wants to live their life according to that love in a way that doesn't make sense to the world.
Strangeness of the person is a lovely phrase.
The strangeness of that person. So that is a kind of queerness that I'm freighting that I think has been covered over by the mainstream kind of queerness that we have today.
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to kind of complicate that again. Partially for the sake of queer theory to move to another iteration maybe. Yeah. But also to help Christianity relate to, I think, queer theory, which does have some big commonalities with it. Also some
big differences.
Yeah. So that's complex. So in certain spaces where I think that's understood well, I would be happy to use the word queer. I was in a church in San Francisco and I said, well, everyone's queer in some way. You know, it's not something that gay and lesbian or LGBTQI plus people like own.
Yeah.
It's a word that can describe any form of otherness that's not understood well.
Interesting.
So I think that broader definition, but it's complicated and I think will continue to be complicated.
And all of the words get contested and fought over, right?
So celibate gay Christian is probably the like, say it on the tin.
Yeah. Most comprehensible to the biggest number of people.
But the problem I have even with the word celibate is that's also got problems because there's repressive forms of celibacy that are about like suppressing yourself and not actually rechanneling or resublimating desire healthily. And I totally reject those forms of celibacy.
Yeah.
As I do forms of marriage that are like that or forms of whatever.
Yeah,
And Freud, at the end of his life in Civilization, Its Discontent, says actually the highest state of psychological maturity and flourishing is when someone learns to rechannel or resublimate their desire away from just one chosen sexual love object towards everybody or more universally. So actually being a gay celibate Christian can be like that or it can be super, super repressive and horrible.
Yeah.
And that I don't really think is what gay celibacy today in the side B movement is trying to talk about. It's trying to talk about a healthy resublimation of desire. But we all know in our lives, there's the ideal and there's reality. And no one in any of their vocations, whether it's marriage or sexuality or friendship, no one's there yet. So we're all going to have moments of repression and sublimation. And I think that's been a bad sublimation. And I think that's been my worry with certain ways, because I'm very against conversion therapy, very against the idea that we should suppress. But to just say celibacy is necessarily suppressive or necessarily doing that is actually to cover over the queer, to cover over the side of celibacy that is actually about resublimation and martyrdom for God and loving God in this like very beautiful sacrificial way that I think gets covered over in the politics of identity and parties. And I don't think that's the best place for those things to be worked out. I think it keeps harming us. So where are the spaces to do that organically and beautifully where you don't cause harm to others? I think has been a big question for me. How can I be a celibate gay Christian but not harm my side A, more progressively inclined friend who might be a Christian or not? And do they have the capacity and resources and virtue and everything I've had to develop to do that towards them? Can they do that reciprocally? That's a lot. And often they can't. And so there's this kind of breakdown. But what I'm hoping is as more people come into this space, into the side B movement from the kind of, historically Orthodox Christian church, then a healthy bridge will be built that can resist the political manipulation of gay life and identity. And to say there is a legitimate option if you are gay, if you want to live in a more historically Orthodox way, and it's beautiful, and we celebrate it. That's my dream. That would be amazing. I just want a space where that is not maligned or maliciously spat at by both sides. And I don't know if I'm going to get it, but we'll see.
So there's so much in this, and I'm just going to have to say, if you want to know the details of David's wrestling with scripture and his journey around this, you're going to have to read his book because we haven't got time to go deep into it. But there's a question that goes all the way through your book and through the hearts and lives of lots of gay, queer, or same-sex attracted, whatever their self-identity is, that I hear, which is if the side B position is correct, and just to be clear, side A is faithful same-sex partners is totally legitimate within the Christian life. Side B is celibacy is the high calling for gay Christians. Put in your words. How would you describe side B?
It's becoming more complicated because within the side A space, there are three main discourses. There's a conservative side A.
Just simple it down for me. Just tell me what side B is.
Basically, side B is marriage as God has designed it is between a man and a woman. And there are other options for queer people that don't involve sexually active life.
Right.
Which is mainly a default to celibacy. So I would put it this way, same-sex desire is misaligned with God's created order, but can be resublimated towards God's purposes.
Right.
Can be rechanneled in a different direction. Through friendship, through community, through life.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Side A has a range of different views, but basically what joins them together is there is some type of situation where two people of the same sex could have a union or marriage before God, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the heart question, I think, and you ask it yourself in the book, is why? Why would baked into creation be these desires that are misaligned with the will of God?
So I like the verse Romans 8:20, where it says, for me, this is more important than Romans 1 or 1 Corinthians 6:9 or Leviticus 18. These particular passages are really important for me. Romans 8:20, God subjected creation to decay and frustration. So there was a creation that was subjected to decay and frustration in hope. That's a hard bit of scripture to accept.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Just
I'm
that
like, wait,
bit.
I thought it was our fault. Was it his fault? Yeah. What's the rest of the verse, David?
The Jews are like, oy vey, yes, it was. We need to catch up as Christians. But it's like more that there is something God is trying to reveal in allowing these forms of decay and frustration. Now, I want to be careful because I don't think being gay is just a form of decay and frustration. It's also related to an original good, which is to have desire and want to be with someone. And God created that as a gift for humanity. But He really screwed that up, I think. Anyway, but I think that was an original gift that fell and was subjected to decay and frustration in hope that we'd be set free from that bondage to decay and participate in the glory and liberty of the children of God.
Yeah.
So it's about bringing glory through otherness, through weakness, through what is cross-shaped. And to be gay is one form of cross-shapedness for me that has a glory that goes with it. And so I live like Isaiah 56, where God speaks to eunuchs. These were people who couldn't procreate or marry, or it wasn't as easy for all sorts of reasons. And Jesus even almost kind of indirectly calls himself one in the Gospels. Because he wasn't married. To those eunuchs who obey my commands, so I live according to my Sabbath. So it's not just I can change whatever God said. It's like, if they do that, I will give them a name better than sons and daughters. So I'll give them something better than just being heterosexual, being able to get married and live your perfect Christian white picket fence life. I'll give them something better. And I was like, yeah, I can trust a God like that. There's the justice that God brings to that situation, even though I don't understand the counterfactuals, the reasons why God has allowed this. I know this one simple thing, that He is going to bring glory through it.
Yeah.
And that is the whole shape of the Christian message, that Jesus was born to die, that I was given a sexuality that was born to die, like His. But then through that, this amazing life would come. It's the barren woman. It's the eunuch. It's the Gentile non-Jew. It's whatever thing that has been made other or pitiable by a holy culture is the thing God chooses to use to manifest His most intense glory. I think that's pretty awesome, and I can trust a God like that.
Thank you for sharing that. All the way through your work, I can hear you arguing in two directions, right? And listeners who aren't Christians might have just got a bit lost in all of that. I'm sorry. Please stay with us. For non-Christian LGBT people, what is it that you wish they understood? And how do you navigate that, where I imagine some of them feel offended or judged or deeply discomforted by where you've landed?
I think I would say to them, life is a mystery and we're all in it together. And this is one way that I've wrestled the mystery through, at least up till now.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful way. And come and know me, come be a friend. I'm not going to judge you for the way you're wrestling.
Yeah.
I want to wrestle alongside you. I want to be a pilgrim alongside you. I want to learn from you.
Yeah.
There's so much I have to learn from you.
Yeah.
Like there is an invitation in that wrestle, not, an othering.
Yeah.
But because that truth has been used and weaponized against that population so often, completely understand. But to do that back to each other is the worst tragedy. Can we not?
Yeah.
Can we find a way through? Because I also have trauma from the progressive world as well as the conservative, and I can see a way beyond that means we don't have to keep doing this. Is there a way we can find a commonality to push for a society where we can make different choices and respect each other? Can that happen? I would love to do that with you.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a pint?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your story. Like that is basically my posture. I completely understand your anger with God. I have it myself. I completely understand your anger with the church. I have it myself.
Yeah.
Like I totally get it.
Yeah.
But something happened to me that has changed me forever. I just am not the same. I have to live faithfully towards that. And God is so amazing and God loves you.
Yeah.
And died for you. And I know that's a lot because that has also been weaponized. But like it is real and it is so for us.
Yeah.
So I think that is something I want to say unequivocally, probably quite simply, is God loves you.
Yeah.
Even if you've been told otherwise.
Yeah. I want to ask you about kind of your position in these debates because our personal stories are our personal stories, right? And sometimes when we choose to tell them in public, and I've done a little bit of it, you suddenly become aware of how you're becoming a character in other people's dramas, right? And I had a conversation with Lamona Ash, who is queer, progressive young woman who has recently got very interested in the church. And has written this beautiful book. And the reactions to her book, I can see... I can see how difficult it would be if it was me to like find my own way through this thing with all these very noisy voices on both sides. And when anyone converts to Christianity in public, I'm like, leave them alone for a bit. Like, stop sticking a flag in them.
So agree.
I imagine if you're like in the atheist world and a bishop loses their faith, the same thing happens, right? Like everyone shares the story of like, woo, like he's come over to our side. This person's personal story has confirmed the thing I want to believe. And I have an overdeveloped pastoral instinct. So I feel pastorally like a lot of care for Lamona, a lot of care for converts, a lot of care for people like you whose like own reckoning with your desires and your experiences and your beliefs are so freighted in the culture wars. Like where, as you follow your pilgrim's road, like if you decide to become a monk, a bunch of people will celebrate. If you change your mind and decide to get married, a bunch of people will celebrate. Like the weight of all your choices is increased. And I just want to sort of ask how you navigate that. And are there times where you're like, I'm not talking about this anymore. I am going to just be David and have my life.
Yeah, I almost felt like that experience in the pub took that option away from me because suddenly everything mattered. Suddenly I was brought into a story that wasn't my own, that was about someone else and their identity. And you go through that in marriage sometimes where it's like excruciatingly frustrating that you have to like, your spouse might make decisions you don't agree with and you have to be thrown in with them, whatever. Yeah. But it feels a bit like that with God of like, I don't still fully understand you. I trust you. I know you. You're beautiful. You're loving. You're good. You're compassionate. You're merciful. Everything else outside of our relationship doesn't matter to me as much as this. It still matters. But this is what matters. And if this is not okay, then everything falls apart. So I think I hang it all on that. For me, of like, I try to follow what serves that. And Jesus says, don't put your light under a bushel. And so I've tried to be very careful to find the right opportunities to shine that light of the relationship I have with God that involves these topics, and to face them so that I think what I really want is the best for LGBTQI plus people. And that doesn't mean I know, like, dismissively, people who have a different ethic to me are therefore all giving. But in some sense, I'm seeing something beyond that that I'm trying to get to and trying to show. And so that is what drives me.
Yeah.
What's happening around me, I've just had to be kind of, Lord,
la, 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 la.
That's less important. I focus on you. And so it's that anchor of having known his love and knowing his love dynamically now. That is what I try to help me orient that pilgrimage so that I'm on the way home to him. And really this life is something I'm losing. I've lost it. There's a sense in which I can't ever grasp back onto it again, even if I want to. Something has happened, which means I've lost it. So I'm gaining this other life. So I'm trying to live into that. And those other broader questions are important and I care about them, but I find most of my time is spent there. I want it to be there anyway, all the time. There was one experience I had that I'm writing about in my next book, where there was this public moment on Twitter with a pundit who I respected in many ways, but was very much on that like culture war, progressive side, and retweeted my book and said it will kill people. And I had this moment where I was like, I am never going to do that to anyone else in my life. I don't care what they've done. I will not attack. That doesn't produce anything good. So I have a very strong policy. I will not attack you. I might challenge you. I might disagree with you. I might try to problematize your way of understanding something, but because I want to love you, not because I want to destabilize you to win.
Yeah.
And I think that has been and then a second thing, vulnerability. God was really strong with me. He's like, if you want to have a public ministry, and I am calling you to that on this, I need you to be vulnerable and that will protect you. Whereas everyone in ministry has told me, don't be vulnerable.
Really?
It won't protect you.
Yeah.
They'll come for you. Who's going to come for you? They're just humans that need the love of God. And when you have that posture back, it stops that real venom from getting in.
Yeah.
And that's actually what's protected me from the culture war machine. The third thing is I'm trying to build bridges. I'm not trying to build the culture war. I'm not interested in the culture war. It's gone. I find it gross and boring, and it would give me hundreds of thousands of followers, but I don't care about hundreds of thousands of followers. Very happy with whoever just happens to find my page and by the glory and grace of God follows me and we have some kind of exchange. Great. Yeah. Like I've had to have that real policy, do not jump on the culture war to get cheap hits.
Yeah.
So that's been a distinction between what is private to my life and what is personally available to others in their wrestle to help bring company to them in their own deliberations.
Yeah.
So that distinction has been really important as well.
Yeah. David Bennett, thank you so much for speaking with me on this sacred.
Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
It really has. Thank you. Well, David is someone who's clearly really thought about his values. You know, you can tell who has been in spaces that have encouraged them to reflect. Intentional spaces, intentional communities, or who's just kind of gone away and done the work about that on their own, and who has never had the opportunity to do that before, just hasn't had time, hasn't been their priority. And obviously David's really drilled down into like, what are the anchors for who he wants to be becoming? Who is it? Who is it that he wants to be becoming? How does he want to be showing up in the world? And it's a really lovely and thoughtful set of values that he was pointing to. And one of the things that stood out was this in-betweenness and otherness, not being quite of the norm, not being quite in the mainstream, sitting on the edge of things. I'm trying to see that as a place of kind of creativity and openness and humility, not a place that means that you get kind of bitter and resentful about having found yourself there, which makes a lot of sense, I think, from David's story. He also clearly looked for a lot of different places, looked in a lot of different places for meaning and belonging in his teenage years. It really was a whistle-stop tour of kind of existentialism and Wicca and Buddhism. And I'm always aware when I'm telling my story or other people are telling their stories that if the way you frame your story is, and then I move past that thing onto the next thing and the person who's listening is still there, that it's really easy to just feel a little bit dismissed or a little bit defensive about it. People who are religious might feel that when they're hearing stories of people who have deconstructed or lost their faith. And in this case, if you're listening and you're Wiccan or a Buddhist, and that's where you've landed, if that's where you've found your source of meaning and belonging, thanks for being here. And thank you for listening. Hopefully you'll find episodes that chime with your story too, in amongst all these different individuals' journeys. It's really the bits where the bits that really stayed with me, where David was just being very honest about his reactions when he was telling his story and the person said the honest answer is God, and he went, ew. It's just like, yeah, I have felt that in seasons of my life. I know a lot of people that's probably their honest answer to a sort of sincere and earnest religious response like that. Ew. Yeah. And then he was trying to explain his mystical experience, and I always feel slightly guilty asking people to do it, because whenever people ask me to talk about my mystical experiences, my kind of deep spiritual encounters, I find myself feeling very lost for words and also a bit worried that in going over and over and over the story, the power of it is lost, or I might like degrade it, or I might start embellishing it, right? Or, memory is a funny thing. We remember also the ways we've told it in the past, right? And then like accessing the actual memory might get harder. I worry about that for myself. And I really wanted to hear it. It's this paradox. And it was just clearly this very, very profound encounter that shaped everything else and has made all these other decisions that he's made clearer, is what I think I'm hearing. Getting told by someone that you're not gay because you're not sexually active, I can really imagine how that must have stung. And again in David's story, I can see how much he risks and has chosen, but is walking a path that puts him at odds with so many different people, right? That I think it's fewer than when he wrote this book, I hope. But there are whole swathes of Christians that are hostile to the whole idea that anyone is gay, frankly. That's why that whole phrase, same-sex attracted, came up. Like, they have had to acknowledge that some people are attracted to people of the same sex. But there are some people who will talk about even that as a sin. Like, even being attracted to someone of the same sex is something to be ashamed of, something sinful. And of course, that kind of language and position and is risked all over this discourse is so damaging. It's so alienating. It's so, I think, so self-evidently caused so much psychological harm in so many people. And I know from this conversation, other conversations with David, like his very existence, his very admission, air quotes, that he's attracted to other men has put him outside the fence, outside the lines, outside the tribe for certain types of Christians. And then there is, of course, lots of other queer people or gay people, or, people rightly use the language that they feel most comfortable with, who find David's position intensely difficult, are suspicious of it or skeptical of it, who do see in it inherently something oppressive. Like you said, that tweet, your book will kill people, basically, that there is no way of holding that traditional Christian reading of the Bible, that is not psychologically harmful, right? That isn't inherently dangerous for gay people. And David's trying to balance on this really very narrow ledge between lots of different warring tribes who are not listening to each other and saying, this is what I've figured out. This is what I feel called to. This is how I'm working out these incredibly painful, loaded things in my own life, attempting to be rooted in the love of God, attempting to keep my heart soft to other people. And it's just a hard road, right? You can hear that it's a hard road. And also, I think what maybe surprised me in this interview, in his presentation, is it doesn't sound as hard as I would expect. Hopefully because he is finding that nourishment and that succor and that comfort in his faith. I got a bit lost in the levels of queering and queer theory. And I've done a little bit of reading on this, but it does feel like, just like he said, it is any form of otherness that's not understood. So in that definition, yeah, everyone can be queer. I'm queer, you're queer, we're all queer, because we have things about us that other people don't understand. And maybe that's helpful. Maybe that's useful. Maybe it dissolves into not meaning anything. I don't know. But David's definition, the strangeness of people touched by the love of God, is certainly one I hadn't heard before, and I think is something that's going to stay with me. Celibate gay people he used this word of martyrdom, and a cruciform, as in a cross-shaped, like sacrificial laying down of a lifestyle. And that the way he balances in that, the way he attempts to live that and accept it, is he has received something better. He said something better than heterosexual marriage. And he can see justice in it. He doesn't see the injustice, or I'm sure he does some days, but from what I understand, like, he acknowledges what feels very strongly like an injustice, that some people would be asked to martyr themselves, would be asked to give up the idea of children or all sex or a deep romantic partnership. Sees the, like, understandable, that's not fair reaction in many of us, including him, and says the justice is that I get something better. I get this high calling and this intimacy with God. And that's such a statement, isn't it? Like, the love of God is enough for him to lay down those things and do it knowing that there are all kinds of unhealthy, risky forms of that path, all kinds of forms of risky, unhealthy approaches to sex and sexuality in general, frankly, and to how we encounter the other. So it's really thought-provoking. I imagine no matter where you come from on this issue, you will have found something to chew on. I wonder how you're feeling after it. I'd love to know, like, politely. We're really interested in listeners engaging with us. You are incredibly broad as an audience. I know, because some of you talk directly to me, that you come from such different perspectives on this, on everything, which is a gift. And increasingly unusual in the way we've set up our information environment. So yeah, politely, and please, please, please do not attack David directly. He has had enough of that. But feel free to disagree or complicate or cheer or question in the comments on the YouTube channel, on the Instagram post. You could write us an email. We won't be able to respond to everything, but we do really want to be in conversation with you around some of these complex things. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Sacred. My name is Elizabeth Oldfield. Our production team are Lizzie Harvey and Maria Gandrum, Joe Downey, and we are edited by Drew Hawley. Our music is by Luke Stanley, and we are part of the Theos team. I'd love you to go and check out our wider work. Until next time, I'll speak to you then.